Skinny talk is in right now because people are sick and tired of feeling duped. Hey everyone, I'm Abby Sharp. Welcome back to Abby's Kitchen. Today's episode is the first in probably a series I might have to do here, so feel free to leave some questions if there's something that you want covered. But we are going to be talking about the takeover of Skinny Talk. I have been an anti-diet culture dietitian for over a decade now. I have been dismantling problematic misinformation and restriction content while advocating for a more gentle, additive, and nourishing approach to food. But lately, it does really feel like the harder we push, the harder diet culture is pushing back.
Stop, you too. Okay.
So like 6 months ago, I made a video about the aggressive marketing of skinny tips, mostly put out there by Liv Schmidt. And back then, the sentiment seemed to be a resounding like, this is up and we should probably report it. But in those teeny tiny 6 months, we have seen an emerging community that is promoting the desensitization, normalization, and celebration of all things skinny. And I have had some time to think about why we got here so fast. Also, folks, a quick disclaimer that we are obviously going to be talking about dieting and weight loss today, so definitely skip out if that is not your jam. And if you also enjoy critical takedowns of diet culture and wellness culture, definitely check out my podcast, Bite Back with Abby Sharp. This season, we have an incredible lineup of guests, and I'm so proud of the success we've had so far. Okay, let me hop in here super quick to tell you about today's sponsor, CookUnity. So before I had kids, I used to find a lot of joy in lovingly preparing multi-course meals from scratch, going shopping for ingredients, baking bread on a random Tuesday, all the good things in life. Ah, yes, those were the days. And now, with 2 kids under 7, that is a big, fat nope. So whenever we stay with family in the States, we always stock up on some of the creative signature meals from CookUnity. So CookUnity has over 90 talented chefs from some of the best restaurants in the country working out of regional micro kitchens instead of massive production facilities. So you're literally getting a restaurant meal at home. Basically, you let them know what you like and you don't like, and you pick a flexible meal plan. So you can get as few as 4 or as many as 16 meals per week. And then you can select from hundreds of meals that align with your preferences and dietary restrictions, including vegan, gluten-free, low sodium, high protein, and more. And they use really high quality chef-driven ingredients. The meals are all delivered fresh, not frozen, in compostable, recyclable, or reusable packaging, along with expiration dates, heating instructions, and nutrition stats. And then a few days before your next delivery, you get a text to make your selections for the next week. And it just feels like one huge thing off my plate that I can't screw up. And literally, it can be cheaper than groceries in a lot of cases. This week, I really enjoyed Andre Mendez's Mexican grain bowl. So yummy. And Chef Michael Schwartz's turkey chili was so good. Totally hit the spot. But the menu rotates constantly with a wide range of different cultural flavors and preparations, so it really does help fill the gaps with inspiring meals for those nights when things just get super duper hectic, especially when I'm traveling with the kids and I maybe don't want to make every single meal from scratch. So if you want to try CookUnity yourself, go to cookunity.com/Abby or click the link in the description and use my code Abby50 to get 50% off of your first order of meals. All right, let's get started with a wee history lesson. So the idea that our body is our business card has really been around since the dawn of time. Hence why us women have subconsciously internalized the need for self-surveillance and control over how we look. But the celebrated body actually hasn't always been rail thin. Back in the Italian Renaissance, the ideal female body was voluptuous with a round belly, wider hips, and larger breasts, symbolizing vitality, abundance, and fertility, which, at least back then, was really at the core of womanhood. Then, with the turn of the century, we see what is known as the Gibson girl, which showcased large breasts, a round bottom, but in impossibly tiny waist. Starting to get into familiar territory here. Enter the Roaring 20s, where we see more of that straight-bodied look that hid or de-emphasized curves as women started to enter more of the kind of man-coded arenas of society. Then we hit the golden age of Hollywood from the 20s to the 50s, where stars like Marilyn Monroe shift the ideals back to a softer, yet still very genetically blessed hourglass figure. That takes us back to skinnydom in the 60s and 70s, with models like Twiggy repopularizing the boyish straight-sized physique with long legs, and it is perhaps not a surprise that this body doesn't come naturally to most women, which likely explains why we saw a lot of discussions around eating disorder becoming more mainstream. Now, this body trend kind of blended into the 90s infamous heroin chic era, when Kate Moss was attributed with the problematic mantra, "Nothing tastes as good as skinny feels." And while most of us waited with bated breath for some reprieve, the 2000s weren't much better. We saw countless fashion trends emphasizing an impossible standard of thinness and a ruthless approach to anyone who didn't fit the ideal. So, for example, our pants were so low, our pubic bones literally would be forced to jet out. Pop stars like Jessica Simpson were being ripped apart for her alleged mom bod. We tuned in weekly, if not daily, to see Jillian Michaels berate women for their bodies like it was like a good thing to do.
I'm bored with the pathetic story. It bores me. Get on the ladder.
And fat shaming was just kind of like a normal, expected talking point in every movie or show.
They're all fat.
The 90s and 2000s also brought us pro-ED content on demand with Tumblr's problematic Thinspo and Bonespo pages. Yes, Bonespo is a real thing, and it had nothing to do with the fun kind of bone. By 2010 or so, we were allowed a little more girth, though it was really only celebrated when it showed up in unnatural places, aka required a BBL. But on the bright side, this shift away from waifness did allow space for the body positivity and intuitive eating movement to go mainstream. While the seminal book Intuitive Eating by Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch was actually published in '95, it didn't really take off until the 2010s. At the same time, we saw Ashley Graham land the cover of Sports Illustrated, Ally Tate Cutler becomes Victoria's Secret's first plus-size model, and Lizzo literally wins everything.
It's about damn time.
And that brings us to where we are today. In the span of just over 100 years, we have expected everything of women's bodies except to like maybe grow another limb. The wooden men probably love that. But back to today for a second. In the past decade, we have seen a significant shift in how we talk about weight and our bodies. Restrictive dieting became associated with weakness, rigidity, and insecurity, where it was kind of uncool to be like counting out the almonds on your salad. I actually discussed this in a lot more detail in my episode on the cool girl trope, which is the sought-after woman who can still eat like the guys, but also look impossibly thin.
I ate cold pizza and remained a size 2.
It's the girl that every girl wants to be and every man wants to have. As a result of these changing trends away from restrictive and overt burn fat fast talk, even diet giants like Weight Watchers rebranded to focus on wellness over weight. Dietitians and influencers talked more about food freedom and body love, which to any woman who has been scorned by diet culture really did sound like rainbows, unicorns, and lucky pots of gold. Except the lines got seriously crossed. The core messaging of these movements got co-opted by diet culture, and the messengers were often unfit for the job. Intuitive eating, as delivered by a thin, fit Instagram coach without any qualifications, actually became code for eat whatever you want, just stop when you're full, instead of rejecting the diet mentality with gentle nutrition guidelines. Health at every size became healthy at any size, which stood too far in opposition to health authorities' war on obesity. Wellness became shorthand for clean eating, fear of toxins, and cutting out multiple food groups for gut health, giving way to a massive spike in orthorexia. And hashtag body positivity overlooked the hard work of advocacy for systemic change and reduced itself to a bunch of thin women slouching over to accentuate their roles. We're all left feeling like we are failing at it all when we aren't reaching that life goal trifecta of eating the pizza, being in love with our body, and having washboard abs. And this, my friends, is why we now have nniTok. nniTok not only exists, but is now thriving because people are sick and tired of feeling like they've been lied to by influencers and celebrities. They feel that they were gaslit by super fit creators online sharing their what I need days featuring 800-calorie smoothie bowls topped with like 3 spoonfuls of peanut butter, plus granola, plus coconut, plus a 1/4 cup of chocolate chips. And they're just realizing now that maybe they just posed with the meal and didn't eat it. Or maybe they didn't eat anything the day before or after. I'm going to talk more about this specifically in an upcoming episode in the series I'm doing here. But a lot of people are just kind of waking up now to the fact that social media is not real life. And as such, what I in a day content or like day in the life content, even if it is supposed to be hashtag authentic, is also not real life. It has been highly staged, produced, and edited to portray a very specific aesthetic and brand, which for the past 5 to 10 years has been the cool girl. Like, of course we are going to feel betrayed and in need of a new community. So nniTok comes in and says, hey, I don't need to be the carefree cool girl. I just need to be thin because at the end of the day, thinness trumps fun. So I'm gonna say the quiet part out loud. If you wanna be skinny, you have to go to bed hungry. You can only take 2 or 3 bites. You have to eat small to be small. You have to walk 15,000 steps a day no matter what. nniTok influencers also bring in the familiar lexicon of food freedom because they're all about just like living life and going out and getting drinks and getting pasta with the girls, even if you're technically only kind of supposed to have a few bites and then just sit back. And coming from an era of raw veganism and clean eating, when you are made to feel anxious and ashamed for like a store-bought fucking salad dressing with seed oil, I fully understand that this kind of like no bad foods messaging is incredibly freeing. But this is where nniTok also lies. Because while it offers promises of food freedom and skinnydom at the same time, it's actually kind of just encouraging you to swap one cage for another. This is a very common phenomenon we see in the eating disorder space where folks are prone to just kind of transferring one disorder to another. In the past 10 years, we saw a lot of young women come out of very restrictive, like anorexia style eating disorders and then claim food freedom when they eat like a raw vegan diet, only to later realize that maybe now they're exhibiting more orthorexic traits. Both of these ways of eating require enormous mental energy to uphold and can be equally destructive to your physical and your mental health. And that's what I worry we're about to witness right here, right now, but just kind of swinging in the opposite direction. Now, I want to take a step back and acknowledge the desire that women have to be thin. This might come as a surprise to some of you if you're new here, or maybe if you're coming from nniTok, but I'm not anti-weight loss by any means. In fact, I have made so many videos with evidence-based weight loss tips. As a dietitian, I follow a client-centered approach, which means I respect people's body autonomy and personal goals. For a lot of people, weight loss can greatly improve both health and quality of life. Like even a 5 to 10% weight loss has been shown to improve glycemic control, blood lipids, knee pain, and mobility, all of which are like huge. I'm also not against plastic surgery, weight loss drugs, or weight loss just for aesthetic purposes. There are so many reasons why someone may want to lose weight or change their body, whether that's for health or confidence, or just kind of feeling better in their body. We live in a society that values more beautiful or thinner people over uglier or fatter people. So you're not a failure for succumbing to that pressure or those ideals. It is completely normal, in my opinion. But as a healthcare practitioner, I am always going to care about your health first. And for some people, weight loss may actually be very damaging. Like, skinny does not equal healthy, and we know that significant caloric restriction can result in low energy availability that causes hormonal dysfunction, resulting in amenorrhea, muscle loss, bone loss, and osteoporosis, just to name a few. Long term, this means heightened risk of fractures, infection, hair loss, early menopause, infertility, so much more. And it is a real fight for us women to get that lean tissue back. nniTok advocates may claim that as long as they're not grossly underweight, that their aggressive restriction is totally okay, maybe even a good thing. But the healthfulness of your diet isn't just about calories or how it affects your weight. And it's really hard to meet your key baseline needs for protein, fiber, antioxidants, and essential fatty acids when you're only allowing yourself 3 bites of a low nutrient food just so you can keep your calories in check. Also, we all have a genetically determined set point range, and so you might just not be able to metabolically thrive at a size 2. Hard stop. But the most obvious downside to me is the psychological implications of undereating. As I mentioned earlier, it takes an enormous amount of mental energy to only eat 3 bites of a burger and then kind of sit back sipping seltzer the rest of the night. This physical and emotional hunger can be a daily distraction from your social connections, work, your partner, your kids. It is all consuming, which is why most low-calorie diets are not sustained. I don't think it's wrong to crave thinness, especially in this world that is built to praise skinny people. But as a healthcare professional, I do worry about the message that this movement spreads en masse and how far this might go. I worry about the skinny at any and all cost mentality, the underlying fat phobia that refuses to be addressed, the inherent privilege of thinness that is left out of conversations, the let's berate ourselves into behavior change, which, by the way, research confirms actually results in really poor weight loss and mental health outcomes. It's not even effective. nniTok isn't advocating for weight loss as a form of health or self-care. It is only concerned with looking a certain way, even if that body comes at the expense of other aspects of health and well-being. That's why it's called nniTok, not healthy talk. And honestly, the overlap from that cringy bone spo we talked about earlier is scary. I'm seeing the exact same phrases and recommendations being used. This is probably obvious to most people who watch my content, but I don't love the orthorexic clean eating era that we've been living in. And I also don't love the eat 2 bites of a burger and nothing else era that we are now entering. Because I have experienced both, and they ruined my physical and mental health. And now as a professional, I see it day after day after day. So I'm all for living in the gray and finding a middle ground where you can nourish your body with the nutrition that it needs to thrive while leaving space for the fun foods that bring you joy. And this is exactly the goal behind my Hunger Crushing Combo framework that I know has helped so many people, because it allows you to build nourishing meals around those fun foods to satisfy your cravings while fulfilling your needs. It is a lifestyle that helps you achieve your healthiest, happiest weight for the long haul without running your life, even if that means you don't get as skinny as some of the influencers you see online. I obviously could go on forever, but I'm gonna kind of end this one here and save the rest of my thoughts for another video. But if you like it, be sure to give it the thumbs up, leave me a comment below, and I will see you next time on Abby's Kitchen. Bye!